Welcome back, everybody. It's Mario from Highlander TCG, and I've come to give you guys my diagram deck profile with the Songa Center. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump straight into the list here, and cover a couple things. So as you can see, for our Sisto rigs, we're running the new Musica, the Musica Power Move, which is the minus AK one, Madoka Float, Madoka Clap. We're running GGG, which we'll talk more on in a bit, and then we're running Salvage the Future. So far fairly obvious stuff. I do think that these are the better options. We'll talk more about the new Musica in the next slide over, but let's talk about our level threes. So we're running three Loudling, three Polaris, three Ana Mirage, and then three Osagitsune. So for Songa, you need a very specific board setup in order to access her ability. And so we're pretty much running black level threes, green level ones, and then we're looking to do blue level twos as our primary board setup, at least when we're locked under to a limit of six. But yeah, we'll go ahead and discuss every other card in the deck moving forward. So let's go ahead and talk about Songa. What about Sanga? Pretty much still a mid-range deck. This didn't create a new archetype or anything for Musica. It's not like aggro or like heavy control. It's still very mid-range, just like Madoka and just like Musica. Um, and Her effect does require different color signies, so we are building around having three different color signies, which is pretty cool. It's a very interesting build around, and I think the payoff is like not bad. We'll talk a little bit more on it too. Another good thing is that it's a semi-selective plus. You are building a lot of enter in this deck, so your selectivity is actually like fairly decent. It's not exactly a fully selective plus, but it is like a limited selective one. And it rewards creative deck building, which is cool because you are using all three colors and you have to use them in order to benefit from it. And then the on enter effect, fairly decent. Enter charge 2 is just okay. And then the diagram once per game is still very, very strong. Being able to recycle your level 1 diagram outrigs is like very, very good still. And just in my personal opinion, I think it's the best once per game, like out of all the teams. So what does Songa do? Pretty much at the beginning of the attack phase, you have a blue, a green, and a black signy. You get to enter charge one and then add up to one signy from your enter to your hand. So this can add servants, stuff like that, meaning that if you enter charge a servant, you're always able to grab it back, which is pretty cool. It also means that if you have like an abundance of servants, you can charge one off and then maybe get it back later. But overall, it's like a very interesting build around that I hope my list does have like a strong like point to, which I do think my list is like fairly good in the terms of like the direction that I want to go. So let's go ahead and talk about what's new. Songa doesn't really have a lot of new cards, at least that I'm running in this build, but these are the ones that I'm personally running. So we have this level 2 Signy Akafuku, has the life burst ability to enter charge 1, and then you cannot be damaged by level 3 or less Signy for the rest of the turn. This is basically Folklore for green. This is like an insanely strong trigger. Folklore historically has been very good, and so that's why we're running it here. We're running this alongside with Folklore, so we have a lot of good life bursts. Next, we have Mirai, another life burst to enter charge 1, and then the next time you would be damaged, you're not. So it's a very common green life burst, and then it has a constant effect that it can't be vanished by level 1 Signies. So it's pretty good. It gets around Romel, and then when you play, you get to copy a color of one of your L rigs. Basically, this helps you use Songa more and more consistently, being able to copy like a blue or a black to be able to facilitate Songa, which is really good. This card is basically made for Songa, so that's why we're running it, and it just helps with the achieving her effect when we need to. Next, we have Musica Stomping. So the other Musica that we had before, I think it was Splits. That Musica was like fairly mediocre. It was like pay one to give minus 10k, and then you can pay an additional four to give minus 8k. The numbers really never added up, and you weren't able to vanish level 3 Signies with that consistently. So it's great that Musica Stomping exists. What Musica Stomping does, it has an attack base timing and main phase timing to pay 2 vanish target Signy, and then you can pay an additional 5, which is 4 black, 1 colorless to give minus 12. We're probably not going to be resolving that effect as often, and at least in my testing, I only resolved it I think once. But it's great to have. Just pay 2 to vanish anything is way better than Splits was, because Splits was very situational, and you basically had to grow it aggressively because it only vanished like level 2 or lower Signies. And then the last card, which is the peace card here, is GGG. You can only use this if you have a green Elrig, and then for the rest of the game, you get when your Elrig grows, and it's the first time during that turn you get to enter charge 1. This card is insanely strong. This turns on Paragilus, Osagitsune, and just helps. churn our deck more of what we're trying to do. This gives us more selectivity for Sanga because the more we enter charge, the more selection that we have to be able to grab anything. And honestly, I think this card is like very very strong. This is not gonna be the first list I'm using it in, and I really do have high hopes for this card, especially in the future. It's gonna scale well, I believe too. And so this is why I chose it as my utility piece of choice. Just being able to enter charge every single turn, you can net like 4 to 5 enter off of this, and that's just like insane. So let's move on. So this is the green package that we're running. We're running the Osigitsune and Perigilus. These are all enabled by Songa and GGG. Uh, Perigilus being able to pay 2 minus 8k or less. This all only works if you're in a charge from your deck during the turn. And then Osigitsune help us manipulate power lines and have an on attack vanish too, just basically being a bigger Perigilus. This with Songa creates like certain board states that you want to. That's why we're running it. There is an optional way to play Songa, which is like running a more or blue and green focus, but I prefer the more black and green focus because I do think it's just more consistent in what you're trying to do. And so speaking of the black cards, let's go and talk about them. So running 3 Lawling, 3 Phalaris, 3 Anamirage. This is just to facilitate the mill, like the whole mill package that we're going on here. Lawling being able to mill your opponent 5, and then having the ability to either give minus 5k or 10k in some instances, and then Polaris being able to just mill your opponent 10. This can lead up to another damage, and then on Mirage just to give minus 8k, and this can rise on top of anything, which is really cool. The best thing that I've noticed that I've done is just go Lawling into on a Mirage. You do have a pretty good abundance of enters, so this usually gets to go off pretty often. And so like you're never really starved out for enter. And then salvage is obviously a given. Just mill 15. We usually want to use it for mill 15 because we are making reoccurring hand advantage each turn with Sanga and with something like float. So we usually don't need the card advantage, but it's still a good option to have regardless. And then wrapping up pretty much the last of the Signies level twos. We have the Folklore, the Akapuku, the Helium, and then the Gap. We already talked about Akapuku, very good. The reason why I'm running Folklore is because I wanted to cap around 6 copies of these whole Signy that end turn with Life Burst. I think these things are really strong, and being able to just be able to play them is very, very good. And I personally believe that even in some deck builds, you can run 8 copies of these in total, just to have that very like really strong Life Burst to keep you ahead. Helium is just the defensive blue Signia I decided to pick. This can honestly be anything. This is kind of the flex spot. I'm not too sure about it myself still, but I do like having the option to play it in turn 2 just to wall up a little bit more. I do like having the defensive options with Helium, but there could be another slot for this. And plus, it rounds out the blue Signies that I want to be running because I do want a blue level 2 Signy to be able to play. And then last we have Gap, which is really good. Pay 1, target 1 white, red, blue, or green level 1 Signy from your trash and then play it onto the field. Um, so this does let you use on play effects, which is really cool. This works with Madai being able to copy the color. So you'd be able to get all 3 colors with that. And then its life versus pretty decent. Pay a black, pay a white to get minus 12k. It's basically ball. So it's very like yeah, very fine. We could use the extra removal too since we're running more or like less removal overall in this deck. And so yeah, I think it was just a shoe in for this kind of build. Just and it has just good targets to be able to call too. And so yeah, just kind of like wrapping up my thoughts. Like I said once again, our main game plan once we hit 3, when we have a limit of 6, is just to play any of our 3 or any of our 9 black level 3 Signies, and then a blue level 2, and then a green level 1. If you have Mirai, you can be able to do any of these variations pretty much. But Songa, in my opinion, is like very interesting build around. The only thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't really have like an identity or like a really big powerhouse Signy like the other colors do. When you're playing Mutsuka, you're capping out on like Lowlings. When you're playing Madoka, you have something like as strong as Zirconium. Osagitsune is very, very strong card. It's like one of the best cards, one of the best SRs printed in my opinion, but um it definitely doesn't like carry Songa. But overall, I do think the at least from testing this deck is very decent. I don't know how it will perform in the meta, but it does do well in being like that mid range style deck. But it's been like a lot of fun being able to build the deck and play around with it because this is nowhere near what I think would be the best build for Songa. I do think I'm fairly close, but I feel like there's so many different variations because of how you have to build this. You can do like a blue level 3 top end, or like yeah, like a more blue green builder playing more disruption. there's optional more or there's more optional ways to be able to like play mill. But yeah, I do think this deck is like very hard to build. Probably like one of the hardest decks to build correctly, and I think that's what's so fun about it right now. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about my initial list, and I hope to do an update on this when I do more testing. Maybe I switch up the build and have like an update by the time that the set is actually released. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Once again, just leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.